All right, let's get going here. Okay, I think we're good to go. Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to Smudcast number 428, the episode that ruined Guts. This is probably the YouTube video that ruined this person's channel, but came out 3 years ago. Has the dislike bar been destroyed yet by YouTube? I can't remember. Let me just check.
If you want the dislikes, I think he has like 3K likes and 4.3 dislikes at K. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, so obviously lots of Berserk fans have seen this and go, no, you're wrong, and I'm sure there's all kinds of comments saying how wrong he is. I don't know because I haven't watched the video yet. This was a video we were going to cover on Monday, or last Monday rather, but Bears couldn't make it, so we said, okay, we'll do another one. And I think Bears really wanted to talk about it. I know you did too, Mark.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
It's not a long video. It's only about 6 minutes. But, guys...
Oh, don't worry. It's got to be a condensed nonsense.
It will take some time.
Kind of things that he's going to like compare to. And, well, our beloved Mother's Basement is also going to show up as a cameo in one frame, I believe.
Oh, no. Come on. They're not teaming up right
now. He refers to him as a good example of criticism, I guess. That's the hint at it. But it's got to be very dumb.
Oh, dear. Okay. I mean...
Yeah, it's got to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. These guys, these fanboys just love each other. So, this guy I completely agree with is greater. Let me link to... Oh, please. Oh. Anyway, 6.5 minutes. This will take some time, even though it's a short video. Because when you know your stuff... And it's been a while since I watched the 90s version of Berserk. But the manga is pretty epic.
Yes.
And it's hard to... There's lots of really memorable scenes in that story. So for someone to get it this wrong is odd. It's sort of like, okay, you obviously weren't paying attention. So.
Yeah. Like there's one specific chapter that I reread, and because I wanted to, refresh myself on it, that counters what he's going to be saying about Guts perfectly.
All right. Good to hear. All right, let's get this going.
Berserk is a series I could only describe as mystical. There's an air of magic to the series that feels so important. There are scenes that make me feel like the characters are constantly thinking and changing, and it's all wrapped in this soundtrack that really captivates the mystique and depth of it all. There's a sense of wonder in Berserk. When I first watched Berserk, I thought to myself, wow, this is the most generic, boring piece of shit shonen I've ever watched.
Okay.
First of all, it's a scene in You Retard. This is not made for children. How could you think that?
Yeah, I don't even have to look it up.
The first chapter of Berserk literally starts with Guts baiting a demonic woman to have sex with, and then blows her off from the face of the earth.
Yes.
The shonen, okay.
Yeah, I don't even have to look up the term, or look up rather the how it's categorized. Anyone who's ever read or watched Berserk knows this is not for kids.
And it's not meant to be for kids.
Yeah, or young adults rather. Even that. Seinen, I believe, is for 18 and up, so that could be young adults in that category, depending. Yeah. But yeah,
it's basically the adult category.
Yeah, pretty much. So.
Like I believe like JoJo, for example, started out as like shonen, and then they moved it to seinen.
Yeah, because it was sort of childish when it started off, and it sort of developed, and the content became more adult, which is natural for a mature story when you have people becoming superheroes and having powers and killing others. Like, oh, you're killing people. Okay, that's probably something reserved for the adult audience. It's fine. But let's forget the category. This guy calls it a piece of shit. And you're like, wait a second. Berserk is a piece of the 90s version of Berserk is a piece of shit, really. After he just gave it all, I love the animation, I love the story, the characters are changing, the music's amazing. It's like, yeah, and it's garbage. Like, how can you say that? You just described a bunch of amazing things, and it's crap? Really? Okay. Let's see where he goes with that.
First episode of Berserk is fucking terrible. Here's what you should... Now I could talk about how much changed from the manga, but that doesn't necessarily make it bad, and I mean, I didn't even read the manga until long after I decided
Tell me your opinion's invalid without saying your opinion's invalid.
I read it after the fact. It's like, okay.
Okay, on the contrary, the immediate res introduction to the world of Berserk was a really nice touch for one. It wasn't trying to subvert your expectations by selling this as a grounded medieval story.
Yeah.
Sure, there are some creative liberties by removing certain events for the adaptation, which was excused for not having material at the time to that point.
The adaptation was only meant to be one season.
Yes.
They
legit knew that this is going to be one season.
Yeah, they can't introduce a character like Puck, right, in the first episode, because Puck is a long-running character. The only time he wasn't around was during the Golden Age, and that was before he was around.
Yeah. If you have established all these characters for the first episode, because there's going to be this is how Berserk manga works as well. That it has this Black Swordsman arc, which is an introduction to the world of Berserk, and then there's a flashback that is for the Golden Age arc, and I think it lasts for 60 chapters, from the beginning of Guts, when he was born, literally, to the eclipse where Griffith destroys the Band of the Hawk in exchange to become one of the God Hand.
There are other more important characters that are long-running characters like Puck and I think the witch, what's her name? Shirka, yeah. These characters are throughout the entire story in the later parts, so they don't even get shown in the anime. But
yeah, well, at the time, I don't think that in '97, I don't think that the story has reached the chapter when she was introduced. So.
Yeah, but I know she's prevalent because it's always about magic. It's always about his armor. It's always about trying to save Seska. And that's the ongoing plot later on in the story. So yeah, we get one season of Berserk in the 90s, and then we get these other versions. They're in 2000. I can't remember how long ago was it? The crazy 3D one. It was 5 years ago or 6 years ago. I can't remember when I watched it.
5.
5, jeez. Feels like 10, but okay, 5. Anyway.
Should have been. But maybe it's because the 3D version by, I believe, Netflix, was it? Or some other studio that pretty much covered the Golden Age arc as well. They have also made a 3D movie trilogy.
Yeah, we don't really...
That tries to look like drawn, but it's actually just 3D.
We try not to talk about that just because... It's like seeing your favorite thing just be drawn by an idiot. And you're just oh, I want to watch this, but part of me doesn't want to. And you're it's kind of sad, actually. You have to enjoy bad 3D anime, and you really have to love Berserk to keep watching that stuff. But I think I only watched the first episode and I stopped. So, anyway. Crumb, thanks Crumb for the 10. A reminder to Smudcast and the audience that the Lost Children arc has never been adapted into any media for obvious reasons. Oh, really?
No, it's the reasons aren't obvious.
I don't know.
It's a little girl who doesn't, she's a moth creature demon. She doesn't wear clothes. Okay, we'll put some moth fur to censor her.
Is that really the reason, or is it because they were too lazy?
Well, it's a combination of both, I think.
But yeah, I'm more towards they were lazy.
Yeah, but the Lost Children arc is it's essential to Guts' character development.
Agreed.
Because up until that point, it has been Guts, a human with a lot of rage, right? Fighting these demonic, hellish creatures that have done nothing but torture and eat people for their own satisfaction. In the Lost Children arc, with Rosine, she's a little girl that was abused, and who turned to demon powers and sacrificed her abusive parents because she had no other way out. And here comes along this 6.5 foot tall, grown-ass man slaughtering all of her friends and blasting a hole in her and carving her up with his gigantic demon or dragon slayer sword. Like, this whole time, Guts has been an anti-hero. In the Lost Children arc, he could have been confused for the villain. Like a fucking Michael Myers-esque villain where you... Like, no matter what you do to defend yourself, he will keep coming. No matter how much you hurt him, he will not stop. That is how Guts looked in that arc.
That was the Black Swordsman, I thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, this is like the tail end of the Black Swordsman arc.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's only a few arcs in there. I can't remember them all, but I do recall watching the 90s version with that. The manga came out at least in the 80s? No, it couldn't have been that early. It must have been in the 90s.
88.
Yeah? Okay.
I remember correctly.
I can't remember. This is like when you first
89.
started... Yeah, when you first started getting manga in the West, like you heard about Berserk, but you couldn't read it because it wasn't translated. So I don't know when I got the manga. It's been a while.
I need a Duwang Berserk now.
Yeah. Just get the original manga translated if you could. That'd be great. But I can't remember how long ago it was. But it was definitely the Black Swordsman was the first for me. Anyway.
It was terrible. So while it does explain a lot, let's ignore it for now. Like how we're gonna ignore that Guts' voice actor is the same as Zolo from the 4Kids dub of One Piece.
Should we change our flag to the Hungry Roger?
The most obvious thing is that it's fucking generic. There's not really much to say.
This is
stop me if you know
generic.
This one.
Okay, so we look
Okay,
at
this is generic. Shows fight between guy carrying 6 foot tall, 500-pound sword versus snake demon on a horse.
Snake Demon just burns down an entire castle town because he wants to kill Guts, and like nobody knew like where he is. And, like, is that generic?
It depends on his definition of Japanese fantasy anime from the past, I guess the past 15 years. We talk about fantasy anime from the 90s to the 80s. Since there's all kinds of strange stuff, the animation wasn't as high quality as the 90s, so it's like Record of Lotus War. What was that? What was the one with the fireball chick? She kept casting fireball.
Slayers?
Slayers. There you go. That's a fantasy anime.
That was such a good series.
Yeah, there's all kinds of fantasy anime. So I want to know what his standards are for fantasy anime to say this is so generic. It's just sort of meh. You know, all these characters running around with swords. Okay. I guess he forgot the part where there's all those demons running around and those crazy gods pop out after Griffin gets his birthright, or whatever you call that scenario. Oh. Anyway, he obviously has different tastes. Let's just say that.
Actually, don't. I'll be stopped at the first sentence. But there's a bunch of bad guys whose characters stop at bad guys. They kidnap a cute girl and threaten her to do things, some of which sexual. Nobody will stand up to them. Proceed with cruelty and assholishness for like 5 minutes, and oh boy, the dark brooding.
Why does every goon has to be fleshed out? Like, this is the first 2 minutes of the show.
Yeah, literally, who cares about these fuckers? Their entire point is to show how powerful Guts is and to get a message to the Snake Baron that Guts is there.
They're literally cannon fodder. Like,
this happens in stories, good and bad side. You know, we have all kinds of sacrificial lambs. We have all kinds of horrible conflagrations of towns being destroyed. It's like, yeah, this horrible thing in the background. Here comes our hero. That's pretty common.
The only thing Guts said to these guys, any one of these guys, was tell your master the Black Swordsman has come. Like, this is to establish that Guts is a known figure in this world to certain people. People, quote, quote. Like, what do you need to flesh these guys out beyond that for?
Yeah, you're in a bar, you're in a tavern, you have a bunch of guys who are thugs, if you want to use that term, and no one likes them. And then this guy, who doesn't really care, just walks in. He has his own business to take care of. So, to me, if he is generic good guy, he doesn't really come across that way. He's a little different.
Yeah, typically, generic good guy doesn't cleave people in half without regret.
or have a massive sword and doesn't give a shit about anyone else till they cross him. Like, this is the kind of stuff you'd expect from Gogol 13. He'll just walk in the room, not give a shit, ask for a scotch, and sit down by himself in the corner.
Where's my $500,000?
Yeah, pretty much. And then he'll leave. Or kill someone who didn't give him his money.
Swordsman has shown up to save the day. Ensue gory payback. Now revenge plotlines can be good, but my god, it's so uninspired.
This is not revenge plot.
It's not a revenge plot. He's a guy coming into a tavern. That's it.
Harry Potter is a better example of a revenge plot than Berserk.
I guess? I don't know.
No.
I never watched Naruto.
Man, Berserk is so generic. Anyway, Harry Potter's great.
Umbridge, in a position of power, forced Harry to swear by blood that he was lying about something he knew was completely true. Bellamy...
How is this any relevant? Like, those two are established characters, and it's like middle of the story. We know like what the intentions are, I guess. Like, I do not remember any of this because I never watched Harry, but this is the first 2 minutes of the show. What is he expecting?
I would honestly be surprised if it was 2 minutes in. Because we didn't have the fucking they didn't have the female apostle arc. It was just Guts walking into town. Carriage goes behind him. Cut to the thugs.
Yeah. Like, why is he trying to like have? Because like I really enjoyed that. Like the first few minutes of Berserk is just like him going through without any inner monologue or exposition of like who is he and what is he gonna do. We just like see everything play out by the animation.
Right.
And, like we can like put together the image.
You don't want to take too much time in your intro, like the first, I would say even the first 20 seconds, just to get your readers or audience attention and focus on what you're trying to tell them. It's like, what is this setting about? What is this character about? What's the main issue right now happening in the first 10 seconds? If you don't have that, it's kind of a slow motion crawl to wherever you're trying to go. You should build up tension or get the setting going, get the exposition established as where you are. Like usually you have that big exposition dump, like in the year 135XX, this stuff happened and blah de blah. Like that's fine, but it's slow. This is like the first minute we get an action scene. You're like, oh, whoa, what just happened? So fast I didn't see it. Some badass entered the room and he wants something. What's that? So you have to do something quick for your audience, especially in an animation. You can't just waste the 1 minute of screen time. Like you don't do that with your budget. Anyway. Here is Hugh Jane Us. Hugh Janus. Okay. Ruined Guts. I cannot fathom what he could mean by this. Typically, I can sort of predict the argument, but I can't hear. Guts is never shown to be pointlessly cruel or cowardly or anything that I consider ruining. I would say Guts is gung-ho. He's very pro-fight. At least as a younger Guts.
I do have to argue against the pointlessly cruel thing because he does do that.
He's very disconnected, I would say. He's very in his own world.
It's explained in the manga why he is like that, and like the most beautiful, the very nicest like chapter ending for the Black Swordsman arc is that like he makes, like, basically he kills the father of like a daughter whose father was like a demon, and kid is about to kill herself, and Guts is like telling mean things to her.
No. Mark. She was complaining about how she can't. Like this girl had been locked up in her room.
Oh yeah,
like, to protect her from the outside world by the slug count. Yes. And after she witnessed all that, after she had to see a projection of her mother in a demon orgy, and then her father like sacrificing her, becoming this giant slug monster and eating her mother, after having to watch Guts tear this guy apart, right? It's like she's distraught, rightfully so, because like there's nobody there to help her, there's no one there to protect her, the castle's destroyed. You know, her reputation in the town is also destroyed by association with what the slug count was. And Like she's like, how do I go on from this? I don't know I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. And Guts just looks at her like, why don't you just kill yourself?
Yes. Yeah, I stand correct.
All right, here's Great Scott. Thanks for the tip. The problem with this argument is he's not even considering the time Berserk was made and calling it generic, since a lot of things were inspired by Berserk, which dilutes it to him. Berserk is basically the Song of Ice and Fire of manga anime. Maybe the manga, or rather the light novel in terms of size, I would say. Not in terms of ideas. I think the ideas are pretty easy to grasp. But not like Song of Ice and Fire, the concept is that magic is slowly coming back. There's all these kingdoms, they're all at war. Berserk is a setup of setups. Like there's all these setups of why the character is the way he is. And then they go to the past of why Guts is the way he is, why Seska is the way she is. And it just keeps building until we get to the actual arcs of the present day and like the armor, where that comes from, the fairies, the witch, like all those arcs, they all just slowly build up, and it takes long amounts of time. And that's kind of it. I wouldn't say the downfall of Berserk, it's just the pacing is ruined because there's so many side stories, there's so many side characters, and they go through a lot of detail. And a lot of people love that because they want more of the world to be fleshed out, and that's fine. Stories are like that when you get to big epics like Tolkien and Conan and all these other stories. But generic is not what I would use for Berserk. If you actually read the Berserk manga, it's not generic. There's very detailed scenes, sometimes very generic plain scenes. Those are normal, but very detailed scenes of like demonic trees and fairy worlds and magical beasts. It's hideous. It's scary. It's gross. And that's what we love. We love seeing these amazing illustrations. So it's nothing, I would say it's inspired the genre to have that horror element to fantasy. It's not just violence. There's this whole tinge of demonic, adult, I think adult genre in general. They just throw it all in there. So any topic is up for conversation or for demon killing, rather. So yeah, they don't skimp on the blood and the gore.
Shat on the whole meaning of the crew's quest, the idea of dreams. Even in, like, Sword Art Online, I can at least say I was invested in Asuna, and at least the offender was a bit more of an eccentric...
Oh, no!
Wait.
No!
Again, Berserk is generic. Here's SAO.
Subscribe to Mother's Basement. How about no?
Also, this is Sword Art Online after the first arc was completed. He is comparing the middle of a story to the first 2 minutes of the first episode.
I'm not a fan of Sword Art Online. I don't think I'll care to watch anymore or read anymore. But to say it's more inspired or more interested, like comparing Griffin to this dude, I'm like, I don't know, dude. That's night and day.
Smud, I don't care for Sword Art Online. How could you say something so controversial and yet so brave?
The number one isekai that no one likes, yeah.
Let's compare like a deliberate villain who plans out for his entire life how he's gonna make his own kingdom versus a guy who just wants to get laid.
Or tease this woman to...
supposedly wants to marry this chick. And like they are in the game.
Yeah.
Doesn't he want her for money or some shit or whatever?
I don't know. I don't care about Naruto.
You're right.
I think he's just the bad guy because he's the bad guy. That's how I saw it.
Yes. Like he's defeated by using a cheat code. Literally.
Whereas Griffin has his entire life planned out in demonic world
and then
just waiting for him.
And then Griffith becomes the cheat code.
Yeah, what a great idea for a villain. Your villain is the devil. It's like, oh, fuck. Now what do we do?
Yeah.
Or the reincarnation of the devil. It's like, oh, that's like, okay, you could argue that's like the the beginning of inspiration for, let's say, the stupid isekai genre where we have to destroy the Demon King. He's being resurrected. It's like, oh, you mean the guy who was, brought back to life? His demonic energy came back from the realm of hell, and all the lords of hell are anxiously awaiting his return to bring hell on earth and rule forever. Like, oh, that we got to see a taste of that early on in Berserk, and then it just keeps going. Then he turns this entire city into a bunch of was it devil worshippers, or I can't remember what he did to that city that he was occupying, but he just keeps doing that. It's
you're talking about Falconia?
Is that Falconia? I think pretty much.
Yeah, there's a whole it's really lovely and pristine on the surface, and then when you go down to the catacombs under everything, there's just a fucking fight club of apostles down there, tearing each other apart because they are having to restrain themselves because Griffith wants his perfect, pristine, beautiful kingdom.
First rule of Falconia: never talk about the catacombs.
The second rule of Falconia: slap Griffith.
It's a little bit more nuanced than Sword Art Online, just a bit.
These guys, yeah, baby, lick the wine off the table like a good little uninvested character that nobody cares about. Like call me a psychopath, but I don't give a shit. And it's not that.
I think that's the
You're
point.
a psychopath.
I think that's the point, though.
You're supposed to care about little girl because it's a little girl being abused by grown men.
Right, but it lasts for 30 seconds. You're like, okay, but that's all you needed for. And then Guts walks in the room. We don't need 10 minutes of this girl and her life background. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. We get the point of the scene. It's understood. It's clear. It's fast. It's all we need, and it gets on with the story. That's it. Set up the conflict. Good. Done. Go. That's good. I see nothing wrong with that. I see nothing wrong with a quick way of establishing a problem and introducing a character that way. It makes perfect sense to me. He just doesn't like that. I don't know why. Anyway.
Completely neutered Guts' character. Or more to the point, they anti-neutered him, because they gave him so much balls and manliness that he has zero sensitivities anymore. He shows up, kills some bad guys, then fights another inherently evil demon bad guy.
If Guts is sensitive in these situations, he is going to die.
Is that
Should Guts be insecure about his feelings? Really? Is that what a show should be in the first few minutes?
Also, if this guy knew anything about the Black Swordsman arc, he would know that Guts barely gets any sleep.
What was the...
Because every single night, he is being chased by the demons.
At night, whenever he's in any sort of darkness.
Is that as a result of the mark on his neck? What was that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So he's cursed, and he's cursed to not feel a thing, and constantly running away from everyone.
It's slightly fixed once he meets the witch, but yeah, before that, it's every single time it's just a bloody curse.
Yeah. So if he relaxes, physically or emotionally, he's dead. Or possessed.
Right. So there's a lot going for Guts. He's not just generic dude with sword. I think that's pretty obvious early on. And if you don't get that, you weren't paying attention. So, yeah, kind of hard not to miss. It's kind of obvious. It's what's going on? He must have not seen the rest of the episodes. I don't know. It's possible.
Struggles a bit, kills him, and apart from laughing at his enemy's death and some broad speech about humans, is completely stoic the whole time.
Sadistically torturing man with gigantic grin on his face. He's stoic.
Yeah, that's the definition of stoicism, being a psychopath. And...
Can we go back 5 seconds to Guts' face? Yeah, that's the face of a stoic person right there.
Oh, boy. I think we need new words for our next generation of people who watch anime.
Also, this is the Guts quest is definitely something a stoic person would do. Like going on a rage-fueled revenge quest to kill literally anything demonic in whatever direction it happens to be. That's totally something a stoic person would do.
And again, probably he thinks it's stoic because he didn't help the villagers, but it's established why he avoids them, because every time he's close to people and it's nighttime, demons are gonna be unleashed around him because the curse.
Yeah, that little girl that he doesn't give a shit about, right? In the manga, her and her dad gave Guts a ride at night, and Guts took them up on their offer. And they died because demons came out of the woodwork looking for him.
Yeah, so not the nicest lifestyle this gentleman has. Little different than your average Black Knight mystery man who walks into bars and kicks ass. So, anyway.
Broad speech about humans is completely stoic the whole time, and then he just fucking leaves. Guts is not the Terminator. He's what is that, like 8% Terminator? Whatever. He's presented like a total robot for no good reason. This is not what I love about Guts or Berserk, and apart from teasing of the fucking nose apple for a couple of seconds, that's all the intrigue you get. This isn't my Guts. My Guts is sensitive about strangers touching him.
What Guts enters the bar and then says don't touch me.
Yeah, literally, that's the first thing he says whenever he enters any room.
And then starts shooting the arrows because somebody touched him.
Yes.
It doesn't care about the girl.
I want to know what his flavor or version of Guts actually is if he didn't read the manga yet.
It's Golden Age Guts. He wants Golden Age Guts. He wants Guts before his life went to shit. Okay, that's nice and all, but you don't get to see the progression of Guts back to who he was, and then better than who he was during the Golden Age arc. Because you can't get through Guts at his worst.
I want to know what his definition. If he said that means he has his own clear image of what Guts is, and he has to describe what that is and why that's good to him and why it's bad over here. Because that doesn't make sense. Here's a character I've never heard of before in episode 1 of 2 minutes. He's not my Guts. You're wait, what?
Hashtag not my Guts.
It's the first 10 seconds, that was my Guts. Now the last 2 minutes, oh no, it's not my Guts.
What does he want? Does he want a full coverage of the backstory of Guts with Donovan and Gambino?
Maybe he likes the 4th arc better than the first. I don't know. This is getting on. Anyway.
Guts turns down wealth and fortune because he doesn't want to feel safe, because he's fucking suicidal, as Griffith will even point out later.
Damn! If only the Black Swordsman Guts was anything like that. Turning away from wealth and prosperity and happiness to go fight against, insurmountable odds because he actually wants to die instead of actually living his life. Man, if only the Black Swordsman was like that.
It's almost like a progression of the same character without betraying himself.
Anyway, how's it going, Nickel Khan? How's it doing? What's happening?
Hey,
I'm just getting set up here. I'll be done in a few seconds.
Alrighty. Yeah, this is a bad take, I gotta say. I don't know much that I remember from the 90s version of Berserk. I do remember some of the bit of the manga, but this is not a good understanding of the anime, at least.
I've only watched a little bit of the 97 anime, but I've read through the entire manga.
Yes. It's a long read. It's great though. It does slow down significantly near the end. Sort of loses its way, I think. But I don't know what state it's in now that the creator's gone. Are they still...
Well, as far as I know, they are not going to continue.
Okay.
They had the last chapter, which was done by Mira, and it's basically ending with Griffith appearing in front of Guts.
It was written by Mira, but some of the art was done by some of his apprentices, I think.
Okay.
They should finish it off, really. Just get it done. Get a nice ending.
I'm pretty sure he has notes to get to the finish.
Yeah.
There's no way, because like he spent like a different manga just to prepare his colleagues to adapt the art style that he uses for Berserk, and all that work for nothing then.
I think they might do it.
I hope.
As far as I recall, this is like probably going to be the last parts of the manga anyway, because I think he said it was like 3/4 done.
Yeah, I mean, in that last chapter, I think it was 364, or it was either 364 or 363, like the Skull Knight just walks up to Guts and says, "You're witnessing the end of your journey."
Nah, it's 364. That's when the Moonlight Child reveals his true identity.
Yeah, what we have been expecting for 2 decades.
Well, you know.
Yeah, because like
It's
there
been
were like
set up.
hints that the Skull Knight is like the king from 1,000 years ago, and like the entire prison was part of like not Falconia, but like that city that was before it vanished under the earth.
And then, yeah, we got confirmation from the vision from the Berserker armor that Guts got.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, he's King Geiseric.
Okay.
The episode in a line that will even add Mystic to his own character. In the first 5 minutes of episode 2, I'm already asking questions and wondering why this character is different from the stoic swordsman from every other fucking generic action series. In episode 3, he'll demonstrate that suicidal nature by using his mouth to push back a sword rather than admit defeat. And then Griffith...
That's not suicidal. He had a plan.
Yeah,
And it worked.
it's not suicidal. In fact, one of the biggest defining traits of Golden Age Guts is his will to survive.
Like that. Like he said
That's
to
the point of
Griffith.
the part where he fights the wolves.
Yeah, that's what he said to Griffith in that scene. You know, you talk too much. On the battlefield, there's only one way you should be using your mouth. And then he used it to get the advantage over Griffith and start wailing on him. Like, that's not the actions of a suicidal person.
It's the actions of someone who'll do anything to survive.
Yes.
Yeah, the story of Guts is not the prettiest one. How he was raised and how he was born. It's kind of sad. So it's like, okay, this is all he knows. This is where he wants to serve. This is where he lives. And
The Black Swordsman arc, that is Guts being suicidal.
well, we learn why. Like we find out why he became the way he is. So
I mean, Guts being suicidal is him wondering why he's fighting the wolves. His body just moving on its own.
when does he get the armor? I can't remember. What arc is that?
He gets it from the witch, like when they enter the magical enchanted forest.
Which is
Yeah, when they meet Shirkei's teacher.
getting that Berserker armor was just
Yeah,
It's
it was a
when
really
he's
good
fighting
stuff.
he's fighting one of the apostles.
The big armored guy from the north.
yes. What is his name?
He like
Right after, like, I think one of the god hand manifested from the
Yeah.
guts of the
And
goblins.
this motherfucker too, like, why are you such a coward? Stop using these cowardly tactics. The motherfucker, he went up against an entire army of trolls and ogres by himself, right? Like, he got some assistance from the Skull Knight because, you know, after that fight that he barely managed to win, one of the God Hand, one of the people you answer to, manifested herself in troll intestines, and cut his armor off, and, you know, like, tore into his body and soul. And now you come along here like, man, why are you such a bitch? Like, motherfucker, you are not fighting him at his best.
not to mention the entire forest is like on fire.
Yeah. Look, you and your entire army are going into a forest to murder an old woman, but Guts is a coward because he can't fight you because he just got through fighting and being tortured by a god. Okay.
And this is an army that Guts also fought by himself.
Yes. Like,
He did have a little help from Scipio.
Yeah.
Will begin with his own oddities and ambitions that make him stand out. Not that he needed it, his character design alone makes him interesting.
A woman?
In episode 2, Guts didn't just fight Bezuso, the armored teddy bear, and call it a day. Medieval Dunlop mascot, the Axe Murderer, was a tiny fucking part in contrast to all of the interesting character moments. And across the series as a whole, all these characters will grow and make very personal choices based on elements specific to them. Guts specifically...
Right, and Guts going out as the Black Swordsman is not a character, not a decision that is influenced by who he is. Are you retarded?
Not to mention, Guts kind of did fight Bezuzo and call it a day.
Like, yeah.
He fought Bezuzo, ended the siege on the castle, went to go get paid, and the guy was like, hey, do you want to become a knight? He's like, nah, fuck that.
Mm-hmm.
Grow out of his social awkwardness, and I think that's cool. And none of this is apparent in episode 1. It's the Black Swordsman, he's so powerful and strong and sadistic. I don't care.
Sadistic or stoic? Which one is it?
His purpose and self-worth and throw away everything he's worked for to seek a dream he feels proud of. I see the exact same boring tough guy who kills some guys but has a good heart, or whatever the fuck that exists in like every other shitty story.
For example, give me
Sword Art Online.
I want to compare. Give me something to compare Berserk to. I could really have a problem doing that unless we're talking like Ninja Scroll or the genre that has that level of violence and detail. Like
there are plenty of works to compare Berserk to, but the problem is most of those works were made because of Berserk.
Yeah, like when I think of Basilisk, like that has this level of detail. It's
literally on the influence level of something like Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings defined generic fantasy. Berserk defined dark fantasy.
Right.
I was just about to say, this motherfucker's gonna watch Lord of the Rings. Man, elves, orcs, dwarves, this is so generic. I've seen this 1,000 times. Oh, really? Why? Yeah, care to guess why? Care to guess why you've seen that 1,000 times? And why that is in relation to this thing you're watching now?
Here's White Knight Leo. Hey, thanks for the 5. Saint Kyle, bless us. May the ground he salted beneath thy feet. Also, this guy's opinions are unmitigated garbage. Berserk is the best manga ever. Oh, those are big words, sir. Okay.
Not to mention, I think it's fair to say that Black Swordsman Guts is a regression of his character in the Golden Age, but there's a reason he regressed.
Yes.
It's
a very obvious
reason.
Here's another White Knight Leo super chat. Thank you, sir. Anyone played the Berserk game on PC besides me? I haven't played it, but I did see... Was it the demo footage or the actual footage on the Dreamcast of Berserk back in the day?
Yes. There was the Dreamcast game, and what was it? There was a PS2 game as well that adapts a different arc. But yeah, the Dreamcast game is pretty much like a unique story that's not part of the manga, but it had Miro as supervisor for the story. So technically,
I think it recreated a scene from the prototype manga too.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I do recall the action. It was like, oh, this is a Berserk game. I could tell. Like it just looked great. So
they also have the Muzo game.
Oh yeah, Berserk Muzo. I love that one.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Was that good?
It's fun.
I haven't played it, but
I've
heard
fun.
it's pretty fun.
It's like, now see, that's just a generic hack and slash, but it's fun because Berserk paint job. Also getting the Berserker armor. Holy shit.
Okay, so they do take elements from the story then. Okay.
It's kind of following. It's an adaptation of sorts of some of the later, like, pre-boat arc. All the stories before that. I think the final boss of the game is Ganishka.
It always reminded me, that armor, of the same powers of Spawn. Not obviously the demonic abilities, but the more you use it, the weaker your soul is being destroyed. Like you're losing your humanity. That sort of idea where it's like you can use all these amazing abilities, but there's a price. There's a price to pay. And I always liked
Yeah.
that. I always liked that ability that the hero character is like, okay, I can do this right now in the moment, but after the moment, if I do survive, I'm losing parts of myself. So,
And I mean, we start to see how badly the armor is affecting Guts in the latest chapter too, where
And
he dropped his sword.
yeah, he's like he took the armor off to see how much damage it was doing to him, and yeah, he actually lost control of his weapon, and his vision is starting to go.
And that's probably mostly from blood loss.
I have to read up more on how that armor works exactly, but I think it was almost symbiotic. Like if you take it off, you're pretty much killing yourself or something like that.
There's a spirit in it or something, I think. And it kind of takes over when you put it on.
It's that in combination with like the soul wound that I mentioned earlier that Slan gave him.
Also, when you're injured in the armor and you can't move, the armor pins your body to it and basically drags you along.
Yeah, it doesn't heal you. It just puts you together and eliminates your pain sensors.
Kind of scary, but yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm dying. I just can't feel it. Like, okay, great. Anyway.
Because when you look at the manga, it becomes pretty obvious why there is such a difference. It's a much more extended arc, but like this section is only 15 pages, and instead replaces the random girl with a reoccurring character, Puck the... How does your species breed? Fuck you, it's created medium? Oh, buy a shirt, washing machine, wing drawer with toaster sword, various sense versions, okay, bye.
Whoa.
Also, the whole don't touch me sensitivity actually exists here, and the couple of speeches that would normally just be interpreted as edginess actually get context as a coping mechanism for all of the people that just get killed just by being near him. I've had one friend I recommended Berserk to, and I don't
Oh my god, I'm so sorry. The anime cut some things out for time.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, there are things that shouldn't have cut out, but it still did. It's still the close.
Like we said at the beginning, like the reason they cut out
to what we
Puck
get
is
for the
because
manga.
the reason they cut out Puck is because this was only going to be one season from the outset. Can't establish
They
a
also cut
reoccurring
out the
character.
assassin dude.
Yeah.
Yes, they entirely cut them out. Also, like the rapist
If I
demon.
recall,
but-
the anime was in production like right around the time that the Golden Age finished. So they had nothing. They had no idea what was happening after.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I think I mentioned it already, but yeah, like they didn't have enough material to make a season 2. And the other fact is that this is the very same studio that made the Pokemon anime a year after, and they have been doing that ever since.
All right.
Another thing about the anime is that the violence is cut down quite a bit. It's mostly just blood splatters, whereas in the manga there's a lot more detail to the violence. That's mostly probably so it goes on TV, though.
I do recall White Knight Leo in the chat mentioned the screw attack death battle between Nightmare, which was the Soul Calibur.
That's the bad guy of Soul Calibur.
Yeah.
Yep.
Versus Guts. I actually remember watching that. That was pretty good. I can't remember who won though. I think it was Guts because
It was Guts, yeah.
yeah,
I stopped watching Death Battle a while ago.
yeah. So did I.
It was kind of bad.
They screwed up a few characters. I was like, okay, that's not. They didn't do their homework with Thor. They didn't do homework with Wonder Woman. I was like, this is enough. I'm done.
Yeah.
So like, you cannot screw up Thor. There's too much Thor to work with.
Yeah,
to
they
screw him
took
up.
baseline Thor and put him up against Wonder Woman and gave her like her fucking ability to take the with the bracelets of submission off and everything. I'm like, okay, but you know, like,
I mean, I guess if we're going by MCU Thor, he's not very powerful, but
no.
comic book Thor, holy shit. He is basically a god at that point.
Yeah, he is a god, exactly.
Let's not bring up MCU Thor. I'm already not feeling well.
I've barely watched much of MCU Thor, so I wasn't. I only liked him in Ragnarok, and that was a comedy. So
I hated Ragnarok. This movie's dog shit.
it was funny. That's why I liked it.
No.
All right.
Like, that's what heroes do, gets ball hit in the head. Like, oh, cool. Thanks for that, ruining that tension, like all the other tensions you ruined throughout the rest of this movie. Ugh.
All right.
If I told him, or if he ignored it, or if I just forgot to tell him at all. He came back to me after the first episode and was like, I don't know about this. Pleading with him to watch the second episode, watch the whole thing after. Now it's his favorite anime. There have been friends I've watched this with now who I've just been like...
Is this his avatar?
It's male neuralities.
Is it a male or is it like a guy wanting to be female? Like, what the fuck? Like, is this one of those?
He's a guy.
It is a guy. He's not like a bisexual or trans. He's not like weird identity.
Well, I guess he
He's a
wants
soy
love,
boy.
not touching in this.
He's bisexual. I don't
avatar.
know.
It's just every time we
But as
see
far
these
as I know, he's
guys,
just a dude.
it's always some weird like I'm a bisexual
Creature.
It's always something like, come on, just get on. Like, you don't have to do this to yourself. Just state your opinion. That's all you got to do. You don't have to like put on a show. I'm a clown. Look at me. Oh, I also
I
like.
mean, I get that in the '97 anime, the Black Swordsman is actually kind of weak, but that's not something you can attribute to the source material.
That was just the one arc. So
It's
Not
one arc,
watching
and then
episode-
it pretty much goes into the Golden Age arc.
oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
watching episode 1, and we don't, and they love it, and there's not a single fucking problem. After all, the whole episode is in medias res, i.e. jump forward to the future where the interesting stuff is happening to hook the audience. So like, none of it is necessary, apart from the...
But that's how the manga is. It starts out with the Black Swordsman arc and then progresses to the flashback of the Golden Age arc.
And again, a lot of stuff isn't fleshed out because they don't have the time, and they're only making one season.
Exactly.
It happens with a lot of anime that even short run manga that I've been reading, I don't know if they're getting renewed, but the author still wants to make the story, so they keep writing the visual novel or the manga, and it's just that's it. That's all they got funding for. So, you know, it's not like, oh, my job is done. It's like, no, this is a labor of love. I want to keep doing it. I don't care if we're not getting renewed on the anime. And that's exactly what happened to Berserk. It just kept going. It never stopped. So,
I mean, I think 97 was clearly made with a lot of love, but there's definitely some budget issues.
Yeah. I mean, that's why a lot of the battle scenes are just like stills. And it gives it like a stylization, but...
You know, I take the stills over horrible 3D models.
Oh
Any
yeah,
day.
Guts' cannon arm, when he's wearing the Berserker armor, is just a hole. Or it's just a circle on his hand.
Yes.
That's the cannon.
man, we're almost done this video. He hasn't sold me on his opinion yet. He just doesn't like it. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with not liking Berserk. It's fine.
And his friend also hates the first episode. Wow.
It's odd
incredible.
because he actually seems to like the Black Swordsman arc from the manga, so...
Well, he started off
Well, you
saying
say that.
he
You say
liked
that.
the characters, he liked the music, he liked all these things he liked, and he says, no, it was boring as shit or whatever. I was like, what? Like,
I have watched this video before, and he's gonna say something really fucking telling very soon,
Oh.
I think.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Okay, let's get to it.
designs, the Baylit, and maybe the evil monster design. The only thing of any interest is that Guts keeps screaming, Griffith! But that only creates contrast and mystery when you watch episode 2 and see their relationship. And even then,
Wow,
Again,
something that's set up in episode 1 sets up something that happens in episode 2? What?
Yeah, so he just mentioned in
It's almost like the point of the Black Swordsman arc is to go, how did we get here?
Yeah, and he
Yes.
mentioned in media res, which is correct. The first episode starts in the middle of the story, and then we get a flashback. It's this long arc of the flashback. You're like, yeah, that's what you do with origin stories. You go backwards in time, and you explain why things are the way they are.
In fact, like the manga is like doing even more exposition of like Griffith and his duties as a god hand. I feel like in the Black Swordsman arc in the manga, it was like a bit too much exposition, because at that point, like you have like absolutely no idea who these people are. But yeah, I think like the anime is actually doing a better introduction because it's just like a visual hint of like who this guy is.
It's for everyone likes their own version in their own way for many reasons, and I can't say the quality of the manga because I only read most of the last parts, and I was not I was impressed with the art because the art was gorgeous. The story was meandering and slow, and there were all these characters, and I had to like, who is this guy? I had to go search them up online, who the hell they were.
Yeah, the first half of the manga, I would say it has a much better pacing because at the time I think like Mira had like a better like release schedule, and after a while, like a decade or two ago, like he started taking hiatuses, so like a year or two without any chapters, and then like in the final years, like he started doing like one chapter a year, and well, finally he just died.
Yeah, no, it you could tell it was dragging out, and usually that's a sign of either the creator not being as enthusiastic or as passionate about his work, or just not having enough time or resources to pump stuff out. There's all kinds of reasons, but you can definitely tell the quality difference drops, which is odd.
Well, the schedule Mira had at the beginning was really hard on his health. You can tell in a lot of the author's notes he left. He would talk about how he had like one day off, and on that day off, he spent it almost entirely in bed because he was sick.
Yeah, well, I think I remember when he was talking about the Ganishka fight. Like it exhausted him so much that he just didn't want to do the Berserk for weeks.
He talked about a trip he had to Kyoto while he was writing the beginning, and he basically just got heat stroke and had to go inside the rest of the time. So it basically ruined his vacation because he was just so sick.
Well, he had a good run. I mean, this manga stretched on not because of the release schedule, just because he wanted to do it. Like he was the driving force. And right now,
another thing about the beginning of the manga is that Mira didn't really have that much of a plan at first. Like, it's kind of why the Black Swordsman arc is the way it is. I feel like a lot of his ideas got solidified while he was writing the Golden Age.
All right, we got almost a minute left. Can't be that much. Here we go.
It's debatably a spoiler that takes the edge off the twist in the final episode, so what's the fucking point? All of this comes from one of these stupid industry conceptions that you need to start on an action scene, but that only really works if the action is engaging, because that's what you should really be doing. Starting on an engagement. If you've got the choreography of Ruby or One Punch Man, start on an action scene. Great idea. But if it's the
What?
Ruby. You know what? Berserk is so generic. Anyway, Ruby.
Can he name any
Ruby
more
did
generic
have some
shows?
good choreography back when Monty was involved.
Because
Monty was a great choreographer.
So the first 2 minutes of the anime, we have a scene in a tavern where he kills a bunch of guys or whatever. Is that not action-y? Like, what does he want? What action scene is going to work for him? Does he destroy the tavern? Like, what do you want him to do?
Shooting the bad guy's brains out with an arrow.
We did just talk about this. The action scenes in Berserk 97 really aren't all that strong anyway.
Yeah, I know, but
it's not why you're here.
What's the interesting battle scene he wants? Like, One Punch Man. It's like, yeah, the quality animation is very high. Depending on the actual fight, like all the scenes I remember from One Punch Man, they're over very quickly, and it's mostly a monster or something destroying the town or killing people, and then One Punch Man comes in and says some lines and goes and kills a guy. So that's interesting because it's.
I mean, the only two fights that I think are really all that well done in One Punch Man are probably the Sea King fight and the fight with Genos. At least as far as I've seen, which is only season 1.
Well, yeah. What the other one was was it season 2 with Burros? I think
it was the finale for season 1.
Oh, it was the finale. Burros. Okay. Yeah, that they really put the whole episode on him fighting that one-eyed invader creature from who knows what planet.
Definitely not a Saiyan.
Amazing regenerative abilities. Okay. Yeah. But by that time, you've already invested all that time into watching the show. So I don't think the fight scenes per se are what made One Punch Man One Punch Man. It was the ideas therein, the characters and their struggles and why they were there, what they were trying to do. It's the same with Guts. Why is he doing what he's doing? I know. Let's do a flashback. Let's flesh that out. Let's get all this time dedicated to figuring out his backstory after you invested in the first episode of, oh my God, this is horrific and disgusting, and what's that all about? Oh yeah, let's learn about it. Find out why he is the way he is.
Yeah.
That's normal. That's fine.
Yeah, Berserk has great fights and great violence. Don't get me wrong, but that's not what keeps people here.
Yeah,
It's great character writing.
Imagine you did not have that first episode where he walks into a tavern and kills a bunch of thugs. You would just start off really slow with Guts fighting in random battles as a mercenary. And then he eventually comes across Griffin's troop. So you could do it that way. That's a fine way to start too, but it's not going to be as exciting and quick because again, the first episode.
It's not going to build as much intrigue.
Yeah, you got to get the first. I'd say the first 10 seconds. Sometimes people talk about video games. The first 10 minutes has to get your attention, have to hook you into the game. And I say a lot of reviewers and journalists I talked to when I was studying this were saying it's faster than that. You have to get almost immediate. You really have to get someone's attention. And in the 90s with...
in the way the manga and the story is set up, we get the Black Swordsman arc, which builds intrigue, and then we go into the Golden Age and kind of wonder what's going to happen. What's going to break this up? And then we get to... we meet Zod. And Zod builds even more on that mystery with his line about, if you consider this man a friend. I can't remember the rest of it. But if we had cut out the Black Swordsman arc, we get no intrigue until Zod shows up. Which is I want to say it's close to 20 or 30 chapters into the Golden Age. That's a lot of time to wait for somebody to give you a hook.
Yeah, so this is the anime, and the manga is another story. All the novels are different story. Everyone has their own format, but for an anime purpose, anime audience, you really have to know what they want. If you're watching Swords and Sorcery, I don't think there's that much sorcery aside from the demonic beasts creatures.
Not until Shrike shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she's the only one.
And then with Shrike, we get kind of a druidic style of magic.
And the whole story after that just focuses on her and Guts teaming up with her and going around on boats and fairylands and all kinds of other crazy stuff. Despite almost a dozen characters, I don't know, not a dozen, maybe 8 or 9, just characters just chasing them around with them, friends and what have you. It's okay, this is odd, but that's what I remember reading, this crazy boat, the sea monster they were fighting, and
oh yeah, the sea god.
I was whoa, crazy stuff. But again, all about the witch and Seska. Anyway. All right.
Shrike and her teaching, what's her face?
Farnese.
Can't remember her name. Farnese, yeah.
Okay, so 40 seconds. That was pretty quick.
1990s, and your source material is about deep characters with deep motives, with deep relationships. Start on that! Don't bend over backwards, and especially don't hurt the source material just so you can get the cold, ruthless, badass character doing badass things. That's a horrendous way to adapt a series,
Why?
and it made Guts and Berserk as a whole look like a bland, mediocre, soulless action series.
So wait, his problem's not with the series. His problem's with episode 1 of the anime.
Which is an adaptation of the it's set up. It's
a very loose adaptation of the opening chapter, and it leaves a lot for people to interpret rather than telling people.
Also, he knows that the purpose of this is to entice people to buy the manga, right?
Well,
yeah, pretty much.
You have to understand how entertainment works in Japan. So if you're watching an anime, there's already a manga and there's already a light novel, usually.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Cowboy Bebop, there's other exceptions. But that's why it's like, oh, there's an anime? It must be popular elsewhere. And you'll find a manga probably already out there called that thing. So nowadays it's kind of impossible to not go that route anymore. There's everything popular I can think of came from a manga or a visual novel or a light novel. So
the newest thing I can think of that's not based off of a manga is Psycho Pass.
But that's because the creator has already sold us on
his work. Yeah.
Yeah, and his work with One Punch Man was the original manga, which is just ridiculous. Like you look at that, like is that a manga? Like what is?
No, not Mob Psycho.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mob Psycho is based off of a webcomic too.
Yeah, okay.
I'm talking about Psycho Pass by Genno Ibuki.
Oh, okay, the one with the crazy guns.
Yeah,
all
the
right.
Dominators.
I gotcha. That is actually very well done.
Which he kind of sold people with his what was it, Madoka Magica?
Yeah, if
I don't really watch.
If you're an established name, you get some leeway. We get it. So that's rare. Anyway. All right. This guy does not like the first episode of the anime. Okay, but everything else he likes. Okay, fine.
I've never read the manga past the first 20 chapters or so. I find it hard to get into.
The first 20 chapters is pretty much when Guts has to fight 100 Men. So it's like middle of the Golden Age arc. I think this is just destroying his entire argument.
This is exactly what I meant.
He read 20 chapters of the manga.
Out of 396.
So he hasn't even finished the Golden Age version from the manga. He's only watched the anime and gotten through 20 chapters of the manga.
If you could watch 20 or 25 episodes of the anime and go through 20 episodes of the manga, I think that's enough time to tell whether you like something, but you can clearly see the difference between the manga and the anime and say, oh, okay, this stuff was left out, this stuff was added or advanced, and you could appreciate why. You could say, oh yeah, there's no way they could have told this in an anime. There's not enough time. It's missing stuff.
He says the reason he hasn't continued to read is because he's afraid of spending the rest of his time with Black Swordsman Guts.
Huh. Well, okay, again, some people like certain characters, certain ways to develop in certain paces. I get that. So I think there's plenty of time for an audience member to go, all right, this isn't for me. It's his reasoning, which is a little...
That's just making the absurd...
All right, you totally broke up.
He's got plenty of places to grow. He's got 300 chapters of it.
Yeah, I know, but to him, it's about pacing because, I would say 5 is more than enough, but he went for 20 manga episodes, so it's obviously not for him. And all he has to do is look at the genre of manga out there for fantasy, medieval. Well, this is the 90s, so I'm assuming. I don't even know what manga was like in the 90s in Japan for medieval fantasy manga stuff. Like you'd have to know the genre and what was out there to compare and say, okay, this isn't really for me. It's like reading another superhero comic in the 80s in Marvel. It's like, this, I don't really like the X-Men or Alpha Flight or X-Force or Excalibur or whatever. It's not for him. We get
I don't like Alpha Flight because they're Canadian.
They're Canadian.
As far as I know, before Berserk, there wasn't a lot of European fantasy-style manga.
I'm trying to think of Escaflowne, but was that even a manga? It was like a mecha magical...
I'm not sure.
Something, yeah. The late 90s are pretty awesome. I don't know. It's for entertainment of all sorts, not just anime and manga. So maybe at the time, if he was actually, mature enough to appreciate adult manga, he might have liked other things. But To say he didn't like the main character is like, all right, fine, not for you. Didn't like his origin story. That's fine.
Same with the 2016 series, actually. The fact that this is called the Golden Age arc is actually kind of hilariously meta to me, because sometimes I wonder if this is why I have trouble getting into anything past that arc. Because on some level, even though I've seen what future Guts from the manga is like, I simply can't shake the idea that this is the Guts I have to look forward to.
You mean the incredibly interesting... You know what? Fuck it. I got chapter 129, Cracks of the Blade, in the fucking DMs there. Like, this is the end point.
An amazing chapter. Too.
Yes, this is where the Black Swordsman arc ends, and it ends beautifully. Like, this is the beginning of Guts going from just a fucking hate-filled killing machine to being Guts again. Like, you have to see Guts at the lowest point to enjoy the journey of him rebuilding himself. That is the point.
Even in the Black Swordsman arc, there's that scene where after he tells the what's his face's daughter to kill herself.
Teresa, yeah.
When he thinks nobody's looking, he starts crying.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm having a problem with his understanding of what a generic story is for fantasy, or dark fantasy, or adult fantasy, whatever he wants to call that genre. And again, the only example I had was...
how does that one scene not add layers to Guts' character just automatically?
Yeah, like I'm trying to think. The only two I can come up with Slayers and Record of the Lotus War. And Lotus War is like the most generic D&D ripoff I've ever seen. It's like literally the bad guy.
Well, Lotus War was based off the D&D campaign.
Oh, for sure. And it's like generic bad guy with the dark sword versus the generic white guy with the white sword. And you're like, okay.
There's actually this really weird practice of like recording your D&D campaigns in Japan. I noticed.
Yeah, that I could say. Yeah, that was generic.
I think Vinland Saga started coming out around the same time too.
Oh yeah, well, Vinland Saga I think is comparable to Berserk in terms of quality and in terms of scope. It's the animation.
It was based off a novel series, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty big. It is like that's a high quality anime as well. I would say that people love
and manga
for good reason. It's very well told. It's very big. It's very long, and there's fans of it. It's been going on for a while. So yeah, no, that's
there was also Eden Saga.
Eden Saga.
Eden Saga, the one with the guy with the leopard head.
Trying to think of it.
I'm hearing
it's based off.
Saga.
I think it's pretty heavily inspired by Conan.
Interesting.
I know you're not saying Bean Saga, but that's all I'm hearing.
The Bean Saga. All right. Well, I think we're pretty much done here.
Hold on, I'll post a picture of it in the chat.
He likes the backstory of Guts. He doesn't like the first episode, but he likes what Guts becomes. And then he dislikes the Golden Arc or the Golden Age.
No, he likes the Golden Age arc. He doesn't like what Guts becomes because of the thing that happened at the end of the Golden Age. And he hasn't even seen the progression of Guts after that.
See, if he says that, I want to see the exact scene he doesn't like, because he didn't describe what he doesn't like about that development. He just says, I didn't like it, and then blah, blah, blah. You're like, no. What exactly was the character change or the choice that Guts made that you didn't like? I didn't get that. Because if once you identify with that, you could spend another 10 minutes talking about why it's good and why it's bad. That's what you should do in an essay, saying, I like this thing, here are the 5 reasons why, or I dislike this thing, here's like the one big reason, and he hasn't given me a reason. That should be painfully obvious to anyone who dislikes something. You go, ugh, this is so bad, look at this. Like I just saw they redid Gren from Cowboy Bebop, who is originally a tenor sax player. in the show, and I think he took drugs and he developed breasts as a result of that, and they turned him into a transsexual in the adaptation on Netflix. And
he was on an experimental drug while he was in prison.
Something along those lines. It didn't make him homosexual. It didn't make him transsexual. No, that's it. He was on a drug.
It just fucked up his hormones, and he grew.
That's
and
it.
He grew breasts.
That's it. It's not even a character moment. It's just this thing we learned about in the adaptation, which I haven't seen yet. I might watch it with LitDev and a bunch of other guys. I don't know if I have time. I might not even want to. I saw comparison between the two on Twitter, an image. It was like, okay, that's not Gren. That's some other weird looking dude in drag, in a bad drag outfit. I don't know what the hell to call it.
I don't know, like, which one of them is worse, like that depiction of Gran or Ed.
Ed, I don't. Okay, how do you do a crazy Gumby girl with crazy hair? And I don't know how to do that in real life. It doesn't make sense. So I can give a lot of freedom, because when they animate,
I mean, I think you could, but it would ride the line between being kind of cringy.
Yeah,
I guess
it would have to be, because you can't just have generic skinny redhead girl, young, who's goofy. It'd be like, okay, she's just retarded. Like, that's what do you do with that? So I can give some leeway to Ed. It's when you change character's appearance entirely, like Faye. Not entirely. She's changed, I'd say, more than halfway. But Gren, Vicious does not look like Vicious. I can give some leeway because Julie was always the mysterious other woman we didn't know much about. She's always spoken of about this long lost love. So I like that mystery about it. So I like the mystique. But then they show the actress. It's like, oh, she's right there. She's playing piano. I was like, what? Why is she playing piano? Maybe they give her a different backstory. Anyway, adaptations you can do different things with, especially when you're talking about live action. But when you're talking about anime, coming from a manga or coming from a light novel, you gotta do it properly. And there's really no reason not to do it word for word, aside from budget. Like the studio doesn't give you enough time and budget to make your 50-part series, which lasts 2-3 years. So I understand the limitations, and we only got the one season of Berserk anyway. So I liked it. I don't know. I thought it was pretty cool. Music was awesome. Fight scenes were neat. Story was great. Characters were cool.
It's still a workable adaptation.
Yep.
It's not the best it could be, but it's pretty good.
Yeah. I don't know about the rest. The rest is a blur. The other anime adaptations, whew, hard for me to get by. But anyway, I don't think there's much.
I haven't even attempted watching those ones.
Yeah.
I've just heard too many bad things.
Yeah, I know. Anywho, if there's anything else you guys want to talk about or mention, I think we're good to go on this video.
I want to go over chapter 129 of Berserk.
Okay, let me see if I can pull on the screen. Let me show you. 129, you say?
Yep.
All right, here we are. Okay, so we're on. How many pages is this?
Let's see here.
20? Around 20.
Yeah,
Okay.
20 pages. We can skip to where Guts starts going, where Guts goes up to Godo.
So what page is that?
That is
Page 10.
page 10. You're right.
Go look on the screen there on the because I'm broadcasting it to the stream.
Okay. So
we're showing Casca when she's in her weird state where she's sort of disconnected.
Casca's unfortunately not here in this, which is a major thing. Yeah, this is where Rickert.
You talking about the scene where we see Goto in bed?
Yes.
In bed. Let me check. Okay. There he is. So Godo's here. Okay. Wipe that stupid look off your face. I hear you can't throw a rock without hitting a dead body down there. So what's so weird about seeing a half-dead old man or two? And Guts is like, the plague? Nothing so special as all that. It's just old age. Just when I thought I'd have a quiet, peaceful death, the noisy idiot had to come back. So what's this chapter all about? What am I missing here?
This is Guts. This is Godo telling Guts that he's like all he's doing is based
This is
on
Guts
his
returning
fear.
to go to right after the Lost Children arc.
Yeah, with the one where he ended up massacring a bunch of children.
Okay. And Godo's the blacksmith, I imagine?
Yep.
Okay.
He's the one that forged the Dragon Slayer. So yeah, if we want to skip down, like Guts or Godo asks Guts, why don't you just run away from war? And Guts is confused by this. And then he tells him that, like his heart, like Guts' emotions, his heart are the real weapons that he's using, and he's soaking it. Like vengeance is like soaking a blade in blood. You sharpen it, but the blade makes the sword rust, so you have to keep sharpening it. And he says, in the end, all that's left is a pile of rust and scraps. Like, and that's like you don't understand what I've been through. Like all those people that were lost in the eclipse, I have to get vengeance for them, and like Godo just straight up tells him like these people. Like, Guts says that these people were irreplaceable to him, and Godo just straight up tells him, you abandoned the irreplaceable things. You left them here and went off by yourself. Like, you left Kasuke here, mentally broken, and went off killing for 2 years by yourself. You have no right to do this. Like, everything you were doing is selfish. Like, all of this was selfish. All of this was because you couldn't man up and deal with the sorrow you had, so you turned away from it in order to pursue vengeance.
This is the Guts that the guy will never see.
Yes.
Right.
Like, this is what you lose by, like, you lose beautiful chapters like this. Because you can't get over, like, I don't like Black Swordsman Guts because he's violent. Yeah, that's the point. Like, this is Guts suffering from post-traumatic stress, from the eclipse, from the betrayal of Griffith.
Not to mention, probably my favorite panel from the entire series in the Lost Children arc. There is no paradise for you to escape to.
Yeah, that's another great one. Because like a normal human being is being explained like
even
what cow
in that
world
chapter where Guts is
in.
probably at his most monstrous, we see softness in him.
Yes. Kind of like a paternal instinct, which is something that, if the Black Swordsman is truly what this dumbass claims it was, would not exist.
All right. Well, it's a beautiful manga. If you guys have not seen it, the artwork's very good. And even in that chapter, it went from cute to detailed to minimalistic. And it told the story of just a guy in bed.
Mm-hmm.
So, sometimes you don't need big action scenes to be interesting and compelling. Especially when it's about plot and why you're doing the things you're doing and all the problems you did with what you happened to in the past. It's beautiful stuff. Like this is a well thought out story, at least to a certain point. Then it sort of loses its way, I think. So, anyway, that was a very odd take. I wasn't clear exactly still on what he did not like and why.
Black Swordsman bad.
I guess I like that arc. I thought it was good. I don't know why.
Yes.
Really got the ball rolling for me to read the rest. So, again, some people don't like certain stories, and that's fine. It's if you don't understand them, that's where you get the argument, and that's where you get your friends saying, "Hey, whoa, slow down. You didn't pay maybe you didn't pay attention. Maybe it's not to your liking. Here's why I think it's good." And this happens all the time, not just with stories or movies or big arcs with multiple stories in them, but even poetry. People just don't get poetry. I'm not saying poetry is easy, but even a few words can be confusing to some people. So, I don't know. I think it was a bit of bravado on the YouTuber's part to try to be funny. He had a lot of silly clips in there. Not as bad as we saw with other people, but still. For 6 minutes, he had a few jokes that he was pushing. And I think he was just playing to his audience. So, anyway. One more super chat from Vladimir Dragunov. Thank you, sir. Random fact, Manfred von Richthofen, a.k.a. the Red Baron, was only 25 when he was killed. Oh, wow. Didn't know that. All right, guys. Well, that was our delayed Monday or an extra Monday of Anime Day or Manga Monday Madness, as I like to call it. Tomorrow, I think we're going back to what we missed yesterday, which was Renegade Cut. And I don't even know which one we're doing for tomorrow, but who knows who's available tomorrow. I'll have to scrounge up a bunch of people to cover that. Not everyone likes coming out for Renegade Cut Day, but it's tradition, and I don't think we're going to run out of Renegade Cut videos anytime soon. So, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for all the insights, and of course for Nicola Khan popping in and giving some more information on the manga. It's a great series. It's not for everyone, as the YouTuber has shown, but if you give it some time, there's lots of great moments. There's lots of great artwork, and it's just one of the classics, I would say, in manga, at least for fantasy genre, in Japanese manga, that is worth paying attention to for at least one or two arcs, maybe not the other three. It's up to you.
I mean, I know people disagree with me, but I do think that it is a work that's on the level of Lord of the Rings.
In terms of scale and scope, yeah, I'd say so.
Scale, scope, and its influence on media as a whole.
Yeah, when you think of dark fantasy, you tend to point to Berserk a lot. So, I don't know. Sometimes people just don't get into certain genres, and that's fine. But anyway, thanks so much for tuning in, guys. We'll talk to you real soon. Have yourself a great evening. Take care now. Bye-bye.